Family vlogging has evolved a lot over time. What used to be just fun, heartfelt family videos being shared has now turned into something potentially very dangerous. Family vlogging has been turned into a business with brand deals, sponsorships, paid advertisements, and unfortunately, millions and millions of dollars at stake. But there is a fundamental problem here. It's not just these family vloggers sharing their life, sharing their children. The problem is that a lot of money for these families is being made off of the backs of the children that are being showcased. Children that can't even consent or say that they actually want to be doing this. And most of the time, kids who never asked to be part of this. Today, we're going to be talking about the business of family, how unfortunately today more and more kids are being turned into content with a paycheck and into marketing tools and ultimately into brands. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. If you are new here, my name is Alyssa. I'm very glad to have you on this channel. We talk about lots of things. I always say I don't really have a niche. We talk about the dangers of family vlogging, cringy things on social media. I also share my gardening, my seed starting, indoor plant care, and I also have a passion for sharing about cleaning and tidiness in your home. I used to be a slob and I changed my ways, put in the hard work and the time, and the amount of stress that is lifted off my shoulders from making that transition is something that I have always wanted to share with others. So if you join us on this channel through this journey, you will notice that we cover lots of different topics. I don't like to be put into one little tiny box and I'm only able to share about that. I like to share things collectively. So if any of that interests you, or just if today's topic interests you, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I would love to have you here. And without further ado, let's get into today's topic. So I know most of you have probably seen, you can't ever log on to a social media platform, whether it be YouTube, TikTok, and even Facebook and Instagram a little bit, without seeing children advertised or family vloggers or family content creators pushing brands and advertisements with their children being the main actor. You'll see lots of kids talking about the new toys that they received, or the clothes, the food, the school supplies. All of that is being showcased, and it all centers around one thing, and this is congruent between all the different family vlogging and family content channels: the children. I mean, you barely watch a day in the life video without there being an ad for laundry detergent or an ad for a device or a helpful tool that you could use or something. And most of the time, the kids are involved. What I think is a really sad thing is when I see a child's birthday party being shown and vlogged, and then you're watching it, you're like, oh, these kids are so happy. I'm so glad all these friends showed up for that kid and that they had so much fun. And then, 3/4 of the way through the video, you realize that this entire birthday party is an advertisement for either that location, that company, that place, or something that they're using. So I found this quote when I was doing some research about family vlogging when I was getting ready for this video. And I read this quote that said this: a 4-year-old can't even read the contract their face is being used to sell products for. Just think about that for a minute. Let that sink in. A 4-year-old can't even read the contract their face is being used to sell the products for. And unfortunately, in 2025, we see this time and time and time again. And it is so sad, and it honestly, in my opinion, is damaging to these kids later on in life, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so one thing that a lot of family vlogging channels have in common, there's a lot of things that they have in common, but one of the things that they usually have in common is that more times than not, if they are a successful family vlogging channel, they have what is called a social media management company that is helping them with their social media. And all these different social media companies operate a little bit differently, and they, pay out a little bit differently, require a little bit different things. They're all unique. But most family vlogging channels that are successful have a social media management company. So just for an example, most of these social media companies will wheel and deal brand deals for the family or for the channel. They'll handle a lot of the contracts that come, or at least they review the contracts at the very least. A lot of times they even have script writers where they'll write scripts and send it to the family vlogger that is going to then use that script to just create the video. Goodbye authenticity, right? And sometimes they even coach the families on how to keep engagement high. So we've seen this a lot with the family channel called the Daugherty Dozen. I'm sure if you're somebody who watches a lot of videos like this, I'm sure you've heard about the Daugherty Dozen, and we'll talk about them in a little bit here in this video, but they saw a dip happening in their view counts, right, on their videos. And you can tell that their social media company was working behind the scenes to try different things and to have the Daugherty Dozen do the videos that they know will produce the views, because then the views produce the money, right? And for the Daugherty Dozen, those videos are Alicia's shopping hauls that she does, because if you're familiar with this family, this lady is a mother of, I don't even know, like 10 or 11 children at this point. Many of them are adopted. I think 4 of them are biological children. The other one she adopted from foster care or from residential treatment facilities, and she overshares about these kids and has online for years. She talks about their diagnoses, their past with their bio families, just things. She shows things and talks about things that we as the audience have no business knowing about these children at all. And I can guarantee you these children, when they are older, will not want this stuff on the internet. And we all know the internet is forever. You can't really ever erase the internet. But so Alicia does a lot of like morning day in the life, where she shows how she makes these elaborate breakfasts at 6 a.m. Yeah, 6 a.m. Before her kids even wake up. She has blatantly said in many of her videos that her kids don't wake up until about 7. But yet we know from the video that she's showing us every morning that she makes breakfast at 6 a.m. A hot breakfast. So do you really think that that breakfast is still good and hot by 7 a.m. when these kids are waking up? No, she's doing it for the money. These kids probably eat cereal for breakfast, honestly. They probably don't even eat what she makes. It's probably trash by the time it even gets to these kids at 7. She literally does it for the content and the content alone.
Hi everyone, it's Alicia with the Daugherty Dozen, and this is my morning routine where I prep breakfast and lunch for 10 of my kids. But first, coffee. Okay, happy Wednesday. It is Waffle Wednesday. We are going to make Easter egg waffles and bunny waffles.
So those videos do pretty good on her page. Another thing that does good on her page is the shopping videos, where she goes to Costco and all of these grocery stores and spends literally thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars every single week. Anyways, my whole point in telling you all of that is that there are certain things that perform well on her channel, and their views were starting to absolutely tank, because this is the thing. People are starting to speak out, like me and tons of other creators are starting to speak out on all the different social media platforms about the dangers of family vlogging and making your kids content for cash. And this anti-family vlogging movement is coming down real hard on these people, and they are starting to see the repercussions of it. And so her views are going down, which means her money is going down, which means Sun and Sky Entertainment, by the way, which is their management company, and the Daugherty Dozen both are not getting as much revenue or income as they used to. And that's not what you want, right? And so Sun and Sky Entertainment has been behind the scenes saying, okay, push more of these videos, do this, provide this shock value, maybe do a little bit of this rage bait to get her videos up. So that is what a social media management company does in a very general sense. Another thing that I have a problem with when it comes to these management companies, they sign their children onto contracts with Sun and Sky Entertainment until they are 18 years of age. Okay, and I don't know exactly what the contract says. Maybe I should try to look it up sometime, but these kids are all signed onto contracts until they're 18 years old with the Sun and Sky Entertainment, which means that they get a profit of what these kids make on social media, and they have quotas and they have guidelines. They have things that they can and cannot do. Can you imagine being a child and having this contract that your parents set up for you, that it restricts you? It restricts you in so many different ways. And I just think, let the damn kids be kids. They are kids. If you want to have a family vlogging channel and you want to expose everything about your life, that's fine. But let your kids be kids, man. So some more troublesome things about these social media management companies. They often push for more content, which equals more kids, which equals more drama, right? Because there has to be that wow factor. If there's not that wow factor, we as the audience get distracted and uninterested, right? And we don't want to watch. It doesn't keep us entertained. We want that drama factor. And these family vlogging channels are just giving it right to us. Usually when it comes to the family vlogging channels, they're not shaping the brand around the parents. More times than not, they're shaping the brand around the child. Because remember, even though the child is the one that cannot consent because they literally do not have a developed brain enough to consent to this, even though they're the ones that are making the money, they aren't giving the consent. The parents are. And so they're shaping the brand around the children. So again, just putting the children in the spotlight, trading your children for cash. That's what this all amounts to. So I found this other quote, which just hurts my heart so much because it is so sad, but it honestly just is the reality of family vlogging. And it says this: in many cases, the child is the most marketable part of the family, the most clickable, the star, but with none of the protection that a child actor would legally have. So I've got my own issues with children in Hollywood and things like that. That's a whole nother topic. The children are the star. They're the clickbait. They're the everything, right? They're the reason why the family is making money, but yet they don't have the protection against them like a child growing up in Hollywood would have, right? There are legalities. There's lawyers involved in that, and there's children's rights involved, and all of these things, all these protections that hopefully are being used to protect these children in Hollywood. And, you know, that's a discussion on its own, because are they really being used to protect these children? I don't know. But in family vlogging, you can bet none of that is happening. So they don't even have that small, thin layer of protection. All right, so now I want to talk a little bit about what happens when you turn a child into a brand, like a lot of these family vlogging channels do. What damage does that cause potentially to that child when they are identified as a brand instead of just being able to be a normal 9-year-old that lives on Canterbury Road, right? What I've seen in a lot of family vlogging channels, and what I have heard from adult children who are now on the other side of family vlogging but grew up in family vlogging, a lot of them say things like, when they become a brand, they're not seen then as a whole person, because the parents then see this child as a cash cow, okay? They're not their daughter anymore or their son. Their interests are no longer at the forefront. What is best for that child individually is no longer in the forefront of those parents' mind. It is what is the best for the channel, or what is best for the brand. And so their childness and then being viewed as a whole person goes right out the window. And everything, and I mean everything, like their personality, their struggles, all their milestones, embarrassing or not, are now monetized on social media for cash. I'm sure we can guess that there are tons of negatives, right, about this. I mean, we could probably sit here together and chit chat for all the rest of the day about the negative things or the negative implications of family vlogging, but some just to shout some out, I guess you could say. The biggest one is loss of privacy. Everything is public, even personal challenges. So take the 8 passengers situation, for example. If you're not familiar with the 8 passengers, they are no longer on YouTube, but they used to be on YouTube for years and years, made lots of money on YouTube. The mom's name is Ruby Franke. She is now in jail for child and of her 2 youngest children. I can't remember how many counts of it, but a lot. She's facing up to 30 years in prison along with her accomplice, Jodi Hildebrandt. If you are not familiar with that situation, there's lots of videos on YouTube. This mom, Ruby Franke, gave these kids no privacy. I mean, none. She literally filmed and told the whole world when her daughters would start their menstrual cycles for the first time, when they would become a woman, the first time some of her daughters shaved their legs, temper tantrums, discipline like grounding and things like that were showcased on social media, on YouTube, and monetized. And these kids' faces were in there. And guess what? Before they were 18 years old, they had to comply. Not only because obviously that's mom and dad telling me I need to do this, but they were under contracts as children that their parents put them under, and they had to perform, or at least act like they were performing. So basically there's no privacy in family vlogging. Mom's always walking around with the camera, right? She's filming everything. We got every angle of the house. We got every angle of your bedroom. We know where your school is. We know if you're homeschooled. We know damn near what your doctor's office is, because mom carries around a camera everywhere she goes, and everything is content. Ruby Franke's oldest daughter actually did an interview and wrote a book, and she talks a lot about the performance pressure. How children feel like they need to act a certain way or say certain things or be a certain way to stay relevant in the content, which will make them be loved by their parents, because they learn at a very young age that if we're not successful with this, if you're not performing the way I want you to, we're not making money for our family, and it's your fault. And then there is a break in love and that feeling of being a part of a family and being important and needed and loved by the parents. Another negative that I think really should be pointed out is some identity issues, or maybe just lack of self-confidence. Because these kids, in a sense, are growing up identified as a character, right? We view them as a character in a show, and their parents portray it like that as well. So they have to keep that character. And that might not be the same character at 17 years old as they had when they were 7, but they need that congruency, and that can cause a lot of identity issues within the child of who am I really? Where is my actual self-confidence? What do I really like? What are my actual interests? Because for years that child has just been told what these things are. And then the last thing that we're going to go over today, like I said, this list could be super long, but there are exploitation risks, right? So when money is involved, a lot of times boundaries disappear. And I feel like we can make an entire video on the lack of boundaries when it comes to family vlogging. That could be a whole separate video that maybe you'll see coming here soon. But parents may push content out of pressure because they need to check a box, right? Instead of protecting their child. So the content, the pressure goes above and beyond protecting the child, because you have to think these parents have their social media management company in the back of their head, over their shoulders saying, you need to do more of this, you need to do more of that. We haven't seen Maria's face for a couple weeks. Where is she? What's going on? You need to show this. It's about time that we show this again, and it just never stops. And so the parents are under a lot of pressure to perform well for the social media company and for their family's income, which then puts a lot of pressure onto the children. And in doing that, it blurs a lot of lines of boundaries. And that's when you see a lot of parents literally exploiting their children, exploiting their medical history, their diagnoses, their mental health concerns, their physical health concerns, their locations, their friends, their grades at school, their disciplinary things, and just everything. That's when you see that happening, because they need to make that money. That child is an actor. They are an actor for that family, and that is the family's income. So I feel like it goes without saying here that we could probably all agree that most of the time, or really all of the time, these kids aren't the ones that are choosing to be content creators, right? If they're on family vlogging channels, they did not have the idea to create this channel and have them, perform. They did not sign up for this. Their parents did. But instead, they are the ones that are working harder than most adult influencers. They're the ones that it never stops. That camera is always running, and they always have to be in character, and they always have to perform. And most of the time, they're doing it without pay, without rights, without a voice, and without any protection. And it is so sad, and there is a part of me that feels so strongly about the negativity about family vlogging. And every time I see a new family vlogging channel pop up on YouTube, I just cringe. In summary here of everything that we've talked about, I think it's really important for us to take a step back and to think, like, where is the line? There has to be a line, right? At what point does oversharing about your children cross over into exploiting them? And I would argue that in most of these family vlogging channels, that has already happened. That crossover into exploiting has already happened years ago. At the end of the day, family vlogging is a business. It is a very lucrative business at that, and the kids are the product. So until laws catch up, which I hope they do soon, I can feel the pressure starting to build. And especially since the 8 passengers Ruby Franke arrest happened, I think that was a huge wake-up call in the family vlogging space. But until laws fully catch up, it's on creators and you and I to speak up and raise our volume about the dangers of this and stand up for these kids, to ask better questions and to draw better boundaries and to hold these people accountable and make it so they're not making all of these views and all of this money off of this. So we're going to end today's video here. I could go on and on about this subject, you guys. So if this is something that you're interested in, please let me know in the comments. If there's a family vlogging channel you would like me to look into, please also put that in the comments. I would love to do that. If this video made you think, please share it with somebody. Let's keep the conversation going, because I think that's really, really important. Because honestly, protecting kids online should not be controversial. It should be common sense, and everybody should be doing their due diligence to protect children online and to hold the adults in their life that are exploiting them accountable. So thank you so much for being here. Please give this video a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, ring the bell so that you'll get notified when I upload new content. I would love to hear from you in the comments. And before I go, I just want you to know that I realize you could have clicked on any video and watched any other creator for the last 20 or so minutes, and instead you decided to spend space and time here with me. And for that, I am so, so grateful. So thank you again so much for being here, and I'll see you in the next one, friends.